Oh man, I don't know where this one's gonna go, but it's been a good day. Kicked off the day, 4-mile run with the dogs and some friends. Checked in the endurance class at the gym, and then bumped into a bunch of friends. Kicking off the 8 a.m. class, which was awesome. And just spent a little time hanging this morning, doing some little things here and there. And which was cool. The morning rolled out so well because I felt frustrated because I didn't do enough last night to prepare for the day today, but clearly I did because I got it done and it was beautiful and I loved it, and had some really cool conversations this morning that got me thinking about a bunch of things. And man, I don't even know where to start with this one. I think I'll start with the other day. All right, let's dig in. I don't like talking about this stuff, but I've had this feeling for a long time that I feel like I've accumulated some good knowledge, some decent experiences, some ways to share, experience, strength, hope with other people. And as I learn from them too. But I don't know how much I share it anymore. And it's been something, I love teaching. It definitely motivates me. It's a huge passion for me. I've taught in different ways up until this point in my life. Most of it over the last almost 2 decades has been through teaching fitness. Not quite that long, a little shy of that, a couple of years shy of that. But I find so much value in it. And at this point in my life, I won't say I'm quite midlife crisis status yet. Maybe a couple new cars and fake tans away from that. But I feel lacking in terms of passing on what I've learned so far. And I know I've talked about this before. And I try to think about, am I just doing this because I want some sort of recognition? And I don't think that's it. I don't think that's like the primary motivating factor. Of course, there's some of that there. I'm a human being. But I think part of it is tied to just how much I love teaching and sharing and learning from others as I'm teaching and sharing. And I've gone back and forth about how to do this. And a friend of mine a long time ago basically said to me, sometimes one of the values of giving away something for free is, one, you can, give things away for free really quickly. You're not searching for anything else. And it'll really challenge you to keep refining and improving on what you know, to keep people engaged. And so I guess, part of me thought to myself, well, that's just where I'll start. And rather than like forcing it down people's throats, I don't want to be clickbaity in how I share things out with the world. Though I like a good joke here and there. I love the meme world. Huge fan of the general brain rot that exists on the internet. But anyway, recently I just thrown on the Instagram, and I think I will keep doing this at some sort of interval. The podcast is certainly something in the same vein, but I just threw on the Instagram, hey, ask me any coaching fitness questions, and people ask some questions. And it's one of the things I selfishly really like about this is it always challenges me to reflect on what are these questions, the things people ask, what do my answers actually mean to me? So it always causes, what do I actually think about this thing? It always causes me a little bit more, it helps me clarify who I am in a really big way. Because I think sometimes when you're just going through the routine of life, you don't always pay attention to that. And one of the questions I really liked, someone said, what do you believe is the most important coaching characteristic? And for the longest time, if you spend any time in the CrossFit space, the answer has always been care. People always say that, care, care, care. And I think that's a wonderful answer. I'm not going to poo-poo it. I for sure understand what people are talking about. If you don't care, there's so many other things, especially if you're searching for longevity, in a space like this, or in any endeavor. At some point, if you're not caring, that'll only get you so far. And this almost goes back to the acedia topic we talked about. But my answer was, I think humility is, for me, I think the most important characteristic of a coach. And I was kind of thinking, and so one of the things I wanted to do is not just say like the word, because I feel like sometimes when we give advice on things that feel relatively intangible, it's the same as someone saying like, yeah, do that, just be better. Do that again, just better. Especially when we talk about things like character and presence and attitude. And I don't think you need to break everything down to these really like formulaic stepped paths. But I wanted to spend a little time looking this up. And so I went up and I looked this up, and I did some quick checks on some various things I've read before. But I liked what the internet put out, and it gave a nice summary, detailed look. And it was a handful of concepts: recognizing limitations, accurate self-perception, modesty, focus on others, willingness to learn, continuous growth, positive outcomes. And there were a couple of things I liked about this, because, if you look at the dictionary definition of humility, it's pretty straightforward. It's relatively short. The quality of having a modest view of one's value or importance. And, there's a lot you could read into that, get out of that, or you could just take it as it is. But what I liked about these elements that the internet definition or detailed look provided, the concept of recognizing limitations, accurate self-perception, modesty, focus on others, willingness to learn, continuous growth, positive outcomes. I think humility is a really important characteristic if you're in a lot of endeavors, especially if you're going to be a teacher or coach. What I also liked about it is, if you think about some characteristic you want to embody or chase or move yourself closer to, sometimes it's really challenging to wrap your head around it because you just have the single word or a very short definition. What I liked about this is like, we rarely are ever 100%, I think, a specific characteristic. And I feel like, especially with these characteristics that we all might find aspirational, at least for myself, I find myself like oscillating in and out of, or getting, not even oscillating in and out of. It's like kind of ever moving target. Like I'm trying to get closer and closer to the bullseye. I'm never quite there. Or maybe I'm there for just a fleeting time. And then, I bounce back out to some other less desirable characteristic. And that just may say a lot about me and the things I struggle with personally and my shortcomings. But that's kind of one of the things I think about this is, it's like somebody once said to me, you're either mentally tough or you're not. and fundamentally, I'm like, this is great advice. But also in a lot of places, I feel like there's just so much gray area. And then also, as I was thinking about this one, I was thinking about some like advice. Someone had basically said something to the effect of, if you have time to stop and wonder whether or not you're working hard enough, you're probably not. And I feel like if you're asking whether or not you're humble, you're probably not. Which I don't necessarily think that's great advice. You're like in a moment and you need like a swift kick in the pants to like keep moving forward. The hard work quote can be pretty damn motivating. But again, one of the things I really liked about this is, maybe I feel myself lacking humility. And what I understand is a definition of humility. And so I sit down and I'm like, okay, James, you got to practice more humility. Go identify, see people around you who you admire, and you say, gosh, one of the things I admire about so-and-so is that they're humble. And I think that there's a great way to move forward in this and chasing characteristics that you want to possess more of. But again, one of the things I really liked about this is when I looked at this definition and what the internet spit back, and it gave like this detailed look, this concept of like recognizing the limitations. I can look at myself and say, all right, wow, it's like I really overestimate my own ability. And well, that's maybe something I should get a little better at. Or, I think about my self-perception, and I loved the definition here because I do see this go, I think sometimes we can be like, humility is not a good thing, because it means you think you're less than you are. And I thought what was cool about this said, realistic view of strengths and weaknesses without inflating your ego or being excessively self-deprecating. I thought it was so interesting. I don't need to go into that a ton, but which one of those sides do you fall on? For me, and I'll tell you this, out of this list, if I was like, prioritize things I need to work on, to take one step closer to humility. It's all of them. But the modesty one got me because I see myself as someone who is proudly, in a lot of cases, generally irreverent and immodest. And, when I went and looked up immodest, it lacking humility or decency, and that one really stuck out. So, I'm the person who, like, as it happened today, actually, one of the coaches, friend of mine, demoed a strict-knee elbow, so he made a fart noise because I'm a 12-year-old child idiot. And that's, the playfulness, goofiness is actually something I really admire in others. I like it in myself when it comes out. I know I take it too far. Like I said, I'm irreverent. I can't stand the concepts of decorum in most cases, or societal platitudes and things like that. I'm allergic to them in a lot of ways, but at the same time, and I'm cursing. It's like the irony is just, you could just like chew through it. I need to get better at that. So when I read the modesty one, it was like this great moment for self-reflection, and then focus on others, willingness to learn. Like, right, this is something I'd probably walk around and tell everybody that I'm great at, but in going in this vein of, I'd shared this, hey, ask me coaching and fitness questions out on Instagram. And this question came up of, the best essential quality for a coach. In an earlier post, someone wrote something to the extent of, what's something you always need to work on as a coach, or something like that. I don't quite remember. Or maybe it was like a pitfall, but it was like, after doing this for coaching for over 10 years, there are definitely fallen into times where I'm like, oh, I know exactly how this plays out. And that is valuable in a lot of scenarios. If you have a lot going on, you don't have a lot of resources, you have to make a choice quickly. Relying on that much experience is helpful. But it's also limiting because I still got a lot of, hopefully, knock on wood, a lot of years left on earth, a lot of different athletes that I'm going to coach. So if I want to be better, I have to get better. That requires a willingness to learn, being open to new ideas, perspective, experiences, receptive to feedback and criticism, the continuous growth, positive outcomes. So, all of these, I just think, it's such a cool exercise breaking down some desirable aspirational characteristic and thinking about what aspects are you good at, what aspects do you really lean into, what aspects do you really struggle with, and of all those facets, how close are you to if you add all those up, are you closer to that characteristic that you so desire? And anyway, so there's a lot to work on there. Humility is, in my mind, a never-ending project. I admire it so much when I see it in other people, and I see it in so many different ways. And not every single person I feel like is humble about everything in their life. May just be humble about specific things. But I really like this. I liked looking up this definition. I love the question. Just grateful for these opportunities to be self-reflective and feel challenged in this way to think through this. And there's lots of other stuff I want to talk about today. But, at the risk of always doing too much, we'll do a little less, and we'll wrap it there. Cool thought exercise. Just curious to know what humility means to everybody out there, what aspirational characteristics they're chasing, what components, aspects, facets of those characteristics do they struggle most with. So appreciate y'all, and more tomorrow.